Shalom family, it's your man Elijah. Thank you for joining me at Unsectarian Wisdom, and as usual, I am a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Let's go ahead and jump in, family. We're getting back into the lands of Mars. 178 worlds under the dome, alright? So chapter 3, the red planet stained with innocent blood. Did I show y'all the, before I jump in, I just wanted to let the subscribers, fams. I wanted to just take a moment to just thank you for watching my videos, for liking, for subscribing, for even taking time out of your life or your day just to let me know you appreciate me and what I'm doing. I truly appreciate it. I feel like I feel like I don't deserve it in ways, but I'm not gonna sit here and claim that because I want to say I do deserve it because we all feel. I think we all deserve to feel at some point in our life some joy, some appreciation, to feel like, in other words, I'm just saying y'all made me feel appreciated, made me feel like I'm of use to somebody and that I'm adding some value or some wisdom to somebody's life. And that's what gives me joy, really, just to know that I can give somebody a different perspective or help somebody in their awakening. So, or awake. And I really think that word is corny because it's just so many people that use it now. And but anyway, I just wanna appreciate, just wanna say thank you, fams, and I appreciate y'all. And let's go ahead and keep going. So anyway, chapter 3, let's jump in. The way to Mars is only one way for humans and for all those races that inhabit these lands, except for the custodial and Anunnaki leaders. But were they always inhabited by these beings? The answer is no. The original race of Martians was annihilated in its entirety when the colonizers passed through their fields, membranes or domes, as you prefer the term. The time running is different from the known, but innocent death was also present there, and perhaps as never before. The Anunnaki were the first intruders that cut the Martian liberties and imposed themselves before their millions of inhabitants. The fight was bloody, considering a total massacre of which the records of the custodians do not have in detail, since the attack was fierce before the Martians that could do little, since their technology was based on their welfare and spiritual development. And they had neither war techniques nor weaponry to defend themselves. The story tells that the last Martians committed suicide. Some theorize with the possible escape of a small group of survivors. But the version that has more weight is the one that tells that all of them were killed by the hands stained with innocent blood by the parasitic Anunnaki race. There are types of plants that can only be found in these enormous and beautiful lands, full of life and color, inhabited by intruders and races that in many cases were forced to move. The control of the parasites that took over this place is still at its maximum level, also based on security. It is very complex to enter these lands by its only passage that opened the way to exploration, and that was also the fatal destiny of the originals and of a future Mars that we will never see. Hold on, let me read that last part again. There are types of plants that can only be found in these enormous and beautiful lands, full of life and color, inhabited by intruders, and races that in many cases were forced to move. The control of the parasites that took over this place is still at its maximum level, also based on security. It is very complex to enter these lands by its only passage that opened the way to exploration, and that was also the fatal destiny of the originals and of a future Mars that we will never see. Alright, we're going to go ahead, family, and read chapter 4 too, because I know that was pretty short. Chapter 4, the Ancestral Expedition, the writings of Captain Rold. In addition to the data collected by the custodians in times of the Great War, there are also stories of ancestral republic navigators who ventured into exploration in conjunction with giant technology on a risky passage to the cursed waters of Mars. Long ago, a surviving navigator from the ancient lands, known before the last reset, had the idea of visiting lands across the second dome or membrane, and set out with 3 other companions on their adventure to those lands. Although it was well enough known that these were dangerous lands, and that there was possibly humans who had even betrayed their own brothers to inhabit them, Captain Roll's team was not deterred at all, and using the help of ancient technology from the ancient giant humans, they were able to reach the gates of the great icebergs near the Bird's Strait Channel. These were not times for visits, although perhaps it is never a good time to enter lands controlled by the enemy. Overcoming the passage was the most complicated to avoid the radars, and that tidal waves or earthquakes are generated in the frozen area of the ice walls. And then, when crossing them, they could also receive them with any type of automatic weaponry of attack by intrusion. Let me read that again. These were not times for visits, although perhaps it is never a good time to enter lands controlled by the enemy. Overcoming the passage was the most complicated to avoid the radars, and that tidal waves or earthquakes are generated in the frozen area of the ice walls. And then, when crossing them, they could also receive them with any type of automatic weaponry of attack by intrusion. They managed to break through the 2 most complex points in their dome membrane. This is the record still kept in the archives of the giant humans, of the Isle of Thoth, and the Republic History Centers. Alright, family, they're getting into, like, this is supposed to be like a radio call. Or imagine I'm reading a script. Alright, so this is Captain Rowland talking. Captain Rowland. Captain Rowland. This is Captain Rowland. We sighted the land of Area and are nearing descent. We have apparently not been detected as marked by the Cry 58 anti-radar. Now Base is talking. Understood. Gather the necessary information and please approach the ring rendezvous point B. Captain Rolled. Copy that. We will start our return at this stipulated time. But the previously stipulated time passed very quickly, and from the base they received no more news. A climate of great concern was generated. Although there were several escape plans, the reality is that the mission carried an extremely high risk because they could not rescue them. There was no possibility of visualizing their real position. Besides, if they were kidnapped, they would also know sooner or later the lands that the ancestors occupied after the escape from the known lands. One of the 4 members of the team communicated to base. One of the 4 members of the team communicated to the base in code, reporting that they were on their way back, but had been attacked, and the body of the captain was lying dead in the ship. Once again, they were attacked on the way back, but they were able to get through each and every one of them. They were able to return in one piece to the base in the ancient lands of Anak. Upon returning, they were able to give details of what happened with the death of the captain. Upon returning, they were able to give details of what happened. With the death of the captain, all were very saddened. The risk was high, but valuable information was obtained from strategic points used by the parasitic race to move within the Great Zoo, as they are also colloquially called the lands of Mars. It was also possible to measure in depth the technology used and a scan with Anakim technology of the entire Martian territory. Captain Roll went into a base of the human colony. They were able to talk to one of the members. For security reasons, we cannot detail with whom, but it was a famous politician who was surprised by the captain, and in an unfriendly conversation confessed to have made and orchestrated several false flag attacks against the same citizens of a country, even had counted the number of innocent victims who had been killed, and was proud of it. Other notes were kept in the archives of the Republic, such as the structure of its buildings, the technology that was developed there, and some experiments, such as the continuation of the Philadelphia experiment. A writing was found on the ship among his notes about the majestic parasitical view of area. The sky here glimpses the sight of visitors. All is shared serenity. Time seems to be a faithful reflection of the ancients who once reigned their fields of the brightest green and full of life. Who could inhabit these lands in the most peaceful way and populate with their eternal love, watching their children grow? All right, family. That's the end of that. So next time we're gonna get into chapter 5. Yeah, chapter 5. Give me a second. Let me see. I think I might have wrote some notes. Okay, just some things that come to me as I've been reading, and not only, like I said, through this book, but other books. You know, studying things about Antarctica, the spiritual realm, and aliens and things of this nature, and just even reading this right here. But basically these are really notes too from this as well. Like, for instance, when it was talking about the aliens, also once again I want to reference the movie John Carter. That movie had different species living on Mars. It had a almost like human race, but they had blue blood, and then they had a few other species, and they were at war with each other. So check that out, John Carter. So that's in reference to this, because remember they mentioned that the humans and the other races, like the Draconians, who are actually living in the land of Mars, right? They actually go to war with each other. So John Carter. Also, I wanted to mention that aliens, or so-called aliens, right? Because honestly, family, when you, like I said, when you do the research and you do the studying, and you get the understanding, get the knowledge, they're not aliens. There's no such thing as aliens. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some people you might say that, but they're not aliens. They're just once again, they're just other creations of the Creator. You know, they may not be of our species, but that does not make them aliens. They're not alien to the realm. None of us are alien to this realm. We are all citizens of the same realm, even though we don't look the same as them, or eat the same foods, or act the same way. We are all still ascended beings within this realm. Okay, you know, there's this in this 3D physical realm. We are not the only beings here. All right. Also, once again, I want to reference this TV show, The Man Who Fell to Earth. It's on Showtime. And this show to me, as I go through, as I've been reading more, you know, into these books and learning more from other books and just other YouTubers or other websites, information about the spiritual realm, aliens, and things of this nature. This show, once again, stands out to me a lot, because this show explains why, in my opinion, or what I believe from what I've read, that so-called aliens, they actually, or our brothers and sisters of different species, they're in ways, I think it's like it's split down the middle. Half of them admire us and half of them envy us. And the reason I say that is because we're very advanced in our emotions compared to them. The races on the outside, other than those who are the ancestors of us, who, as this book, if they are real, I don't know if these people are real, but if this is real, I would say other than the ancestors who they say are on Mars, I don't know who's on Mars, I don't know if it's ancestors, I don't know, but pretty much, hold on, I lost my, so these other races, family, they act more of instinct. All right. Their emotions, our emotions are very powerful. They're really like magical powers in a way, I would say. Our emotions truly help us experience and understand on a deeper level that they cannot understand, because their emotions, they don't have as deep emotions as we do. You know, some of them don't have emotions at all. From what we read, I mean, especially if you read about the draconians, what they said, or it said it was almost like they didn't have emotions, but they did. So just think about it like that, right? We're just, I'm trying to, okay, so once again, I use this analogy. Imagine a painter, right? And if you're a painter, and let's say people have told you all your life, art's not appreciated until after the artist is dead. So let's say you've accepted this in your psyche, so you've made the choice to sacrifice your life to be a great artist, even though you know your art is not going to be appreciated until you're gone, right? So, but regardless, you get what you can while you're here. So let's say you have, art gallery, you got all your paintings up, and people come in, let's say that, like the Terra-Infinita map, let's say that was your painting, and someone's standing, right in front of your painting, and you ask them, what do you see? Like, what do you get out of this picture? And they're like, it's nice. And you're like, what do you mean it's nice? What else? Anything else? It's cool. It looks like you took time. It looks really neat. I see all the cool colors. And you're thinking, bro, this has took me weeks, maybe months to finish. I spent so much time. I put my heart and soul in this, like so much effort. And the best you just gonna look at this and be like, cool, nice, thanks. And you think like, man, you unappreciative cat, whatever you'll call him, right? But that's the difference between us and the majority of them. And although I gave this example, obviously there are some people, yes, they're going to look at it and think nothing. But, once again, that's the thing about us, is there are some people who can look at this picture, and I would say sometimes I would say it depends on the person's mental state at the time. It depends on what they're going through in their life. Maybe they're in love. Maybe they're just feeling a lot of joy at that time. Maybe they're sad. We don't know. Whatever a person's going through at the time, somebody might see, and not even necessarily this, but let's say, I don't know, a Mona Lisa painting or one of those paintings that have just a lot of obscure figures and stuff in it, right? Maybe someone might look at it and just, because of whatever they're going through in their life right now, in their mind, in their spirit, just something in that picture just triggers something in them, right? Maybe causes a memory, or the picture causes some type, like I said, memory, some familiarity. It just brings up emotions, and that picture just means so much more at that moment, because it's also, it's creating a moment. As people say, I hear this a lot now lately. People don't always remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. And once again, it comes right back to these emotions. That's the difference between us and them. We have a deeper sense of feelings than our brothers and sisters on the outside of the dome, or those who we aren't aware of that may be around us, who are of different species. We have more in-depth emotions. Matter of fact, they look at us and they think that we're erratic. They think we're crazy, because they just don't have that much in depth of feeling. But don't be wrong. They envy us still, and they admire us, because it's almost like, and I hate for it to sound like this, but actually I'm not gonna say I hate for it to sound like it, but it's almost like, how do I say it? It's almost like, let's say one race of people or one tribe of people looking at another tribe, and being like, okay, I just put it like this. It's almost like an old Caucasian woman or older Caucasian man, like maybe in the 80s, looking at some inner city kids of color, right? Dancing on the street, maybe rapping, doing stuff like that, and they look at them and they just think to themselves, wow, so much expression. Like, and they think, I wish I could have as much expression as them, or feel as they feel right now. And that's how, and no offense to nobody, I'm just trying to explain something. This is how the aliens look at us. This is how so-called aliens, this is how they look at us, because we have more emotion. We have a greater, because look, family, when you ascend, when you're going up, to other levels, like let's say, this is third dimension, when you go up to the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, or Jacob's ladder, right? Going to a different heaven. Know that you actually become less emotional. It's not that your emotions aren't there, but you have to be honestly like, bro, you got to be cool. You can't be going up there tripping. Like, you got to be cool, like cool, calm, and collected. Like, you could trip here, you could cuss all day, you could do this and that, but I'm sorry, but when you before the Creator, when you in a place like that, there ain't no, like, don't be wrong, there's joy, but it's more, it's more understanding. It's more of a, okay, there's this cartoon called Adventure Time, right? And I always remember this episode, because this episode, and it may seem like nothing, but this episode of Adventure Time, right, was so profound to me. And in this particular episode, it was, I think it's because I know the series is done. The series is done now, right? So I think this was like one of the last episodes, or maybe like yeah, this is one of the last episodes of the series Adventure Time. And in this particular episode, the main character, the one who wears the backpack, the boy, the kid with the blonde hair or the gold hair, I forget his name, but he had died and he went to Hades, right? And his friend, who was a dog, had passed away years before him. So when he got to, I forget his name. I know his name. It's gonna come back to me later. I know it. It's just, anyway. But anyone who's watched Adventure Time knows the show. It's a hilarious show. I love it. It's an Adult Swim show. So anyway, so when the main character, the one with the blonde hair, he makes it. So like I said, he passes away after being an old man. And he goes to hell. So when he gets there, he's looking for his friend. So he finds out after a while that his friend isn't there, and that his friend has ascended to the highest level of heaven, to the, I think they called it the top floor. I don't know, I forget exactly what we call it, but it was levels. He had to ascend to get to where his friend was. So anyway, so he goes on this whole mission to go through all the different levels of heaven or hell or whatever you want to call it, to get to the very top to where his friend was. So eventually, when he made it to the very top, like this G status, right? To me, this is like, okay, anyway. So he makes it to the very top level to where his friend is. And when he got to this level, the highest level of heaven, I remember how, looking at it, the animators made it look like in this part of heaven, when he got there, it was like everybody had on a white robe like an angel, and they was just sitting there. Like, imagine you just walk somewhere and everybody is just sitting in white robes in the Indian meditation pose, and they're just like got their eyes closed and they're smiling like this, and they're not saying nothing, and they're just glowing with light. They just sitting there like this. Like, you walk in and it's just, right? That's it. Oh, was I smiling? I don't know. Hold up. Let me make sure I smile. See, right? So when he walked up there and they was all looking like that, it just hit me in a way from that time all the way through the next day. It was just on my spirit. It was profound, because when you get to the top, it's almost like this. They were quiet because when you're at that level of peace, when you're at that heights of Jacob's ladder, when you're at that point, and honestly, I think that's like, if that was real, and I'm not gonna sit here and get and say Adventure Time. That's not right. But there is truth that they put even in kids' cartoons or adults, whatever you can put it. So I almost look at this as, in a way, this episode of Adventure Time, I almost look at it as like the place before you leave the top of your mind, or the last level of Jacob's ladder, before you become the all again, the universe. And basically my point is that peace they were in, right? That's what happens when you go to the Creator. You're so much at peace, you have no need, no want. You're not worried about no, I'm not even gonna say love. You don't need none of that, or so-called worldly love. You don't need nothing, because you don't get hungry, you don't sleep, you at such peace, you literally have nothing to say, because there's nothing to say. Because you already know everything. And you realize that you know everything because there's nothing to know. And there's nothing to worry about because it's not real. You're just at peace with what is. You're at peace with just serenity. Not having to worry about food, eat, Does someone love me? Sexual desires, hate, anger, pain, all these crazy emotions building up beside you. You don't have to worry about that there. So you just, because nothing's real, and you just sit there just chilling. So anyway, I just want to put that, so basically going back to this, family, I'm gonna say it, and I've said this, I haven't said this in a while, but the main purpose at the end of the day of Ascension and where we're going, where all this is going, is Star Trek, the Federation, period. For all the races to come together in peace, so that we can all become like the Martians. Remember, it was saying the Martians were based off spiritual technology. Their technology was spiritual in nature, right? It was supposed to help them on their path to ascension. Like, for instance, excuse me, family, I apologize. That was nasty. I shouldn't have done that. Hold up. I apologize. I apologize, family. I had the sniffles. Anyway, so the point is to make it to like the Federation, family. Is for all the races to come to, like, I really do believe that our purpose in this middle dome area, at the end of the day, whether it's an alien race, so-called alien race, keeping us here stuck, it's like the Bible says, what the enemy meant for bad, the Creator will turn to good. And I truly do believe that our purpose is to leave out of here one day, almost like disciples out of the Bible, and to go to the other worlds in the dome and to spread the gospel. And not gospel in a way to be a Christian. That's not what I'm saying. I mean the gospel of the truth of the Creator. Because in this book, what is one of the biggest mysteries, right? What is one of the biggest mysteries in this book? What do they want to know? What do the Anunnaki and the custodians want to know? They want to know how to get into the celestial lands. They want to know what's there. See, but the Anunnaki and the custodians, yes, their intelligence, they're very wide. No, I wouldn't know. They're very knowledgeable creatures. And their knowledge is of great benefit to them. And it is a blessing, but it is also a curse to them. Because there's a such thing as being too knowledgeable. In other words, like a atheist. You so much into the religion of scientism that you don't believe in any type of spirituality at all. So really you handicap yourself. And the Anunnaki and custodians have handicapped themselves. Because they still truly have fear, even though they don't have as deep deep feeling of emotion as we do. They still have fear, in a way. So, basically, okay, before I get off, the whole point, family, is to get back to source, to get understanding. The celestial lands, the place that they can't get to. The one that's invisible, that's the whole point of the spiritual technology. Remember, this is just a 3D realm to experience physical things, physical pleasures, something other than the spiritual way of living. But when you're truly ready inside, remember, this is all a test, family. You got, this is like I said, there's this gets into like past lives, reincarnation. Even I would even say that the Anunnaki. Matter of fact, go back to the movie The Eternals, right? In the movie Eternals, I forget if it's in the beginning of the movie, in the middle, but remember they explained at some point that the main characters, right, the Eternals, obviously, that this was not their first planet that they lived on. This was not their first body this is not the first avatar that they inhabited. Remember in the beginning, it went through many different races. Family, when some of y'all when you go on some of these websites or watch some of these YouTube or Instagram and you see people talking about, oh, I'm a star being, or I'm a star being, I'm a celestial being, or I'm an alien from here, or I'm, people literally talking about they're being honest. Well, actually, on in two aspects. Like, for instance, when you go into the story of the Anunnaki, right, and when you're learning about Inky and his brother, remember they used their DNA, is what they were saying, to create the human race. Well, we were created to be slaves to mine the gold, but nonetheless, matter of fact, if you go back to the sealed portion, my sealed portion readings, matter of fact, this actually kind of explains that in a way too. Um, Basically, in the sealed portion explains that. Remember, there are different versions of the Adam and Eve story, right? So in the sealed portion, Adam and Eve have specific avatar bodies that were made specifically to house the spirits of celestial beings, which is what Adam and Eve are, right? They came from the celestial lands, and the all, right? But first they came from the celestial lands. Before souls, I'm guessing on this map, and honestly this is a guess, but personally I feel like essentially with this map, or this is what this land is. Once again, even if you go back to the sealed portion, this land is like I said, I've said it before. This is like the Willy Wonka factory of the dome. This is There's spiritual beings in there. They're basically like, once again, if you go back to the Bible and you read the difference between Yahusha or Jesus' earth body, the one that was put on the cross, and the one that he resurrected with, is that land. In other words, it's like a body it has the ability to be physical in the 3D, but it can also revert back to spiritual anytime it wants and cross into those lands. But that's the key. The Anunnaki and the custodians will never make it into those lands until they become spiritual. Until they evolve spiritually to become more one and centered, to not be so, as what are they saying, calling parasitical, to not go around murdering, other species. So until they learn that, until they become pretty much like Buddha, that's not gonna happen. And yeah, before I like I said, I think I got off topic. I think the whole point, like I said, I believe, is that one day, like I said, we're gonna go out to the other lands. This is why, once again, this is why they admire us, family. Because like I said, of who we are, we're gonna be able to go to the other lands and basically give understanding to them, more understanding to them of the Creator, because we have this deeper connection emotionally with creation than they do, because of just like, it's almost like legit, it's psychic. We're more psychic than them. Is basically is another way to put it. Although, you know what I'm saying, I would say some of them are more. I would like this. Some of them, yes, I would say, are more psychic than us, but they still lack the emotional depth that we do. So it's a lot, family. It's a lot. Anyway, also, I want to give out some things. As we've been reading, we've learned, we learned that one of the Anunnaki's favorite vehicles is pyramids, right? Or that's something that is associated with the Anunnaki, at least in this story. I don't know if that's true in reality, but what I have learned from this story, as far as also piggybacking off this book, there's pyramids all throughout the universe. And some of the attributes of these pyramids, family, in my studies that I've come across, is that pyramids are essentially, obviously, well, I'll put it like this. There are many different, what's it called? There are many different attributes to a pyramid, as far as many different uses. I'm pretty sure I'm only touching a few. I know from my studies, and I know this might say, well, what does he know that an look, just study and read. Like I say, eventually, all of these books, family, intersect. This is why I say you have to take yourself out of the box, because when you put yourself in a box, and let's say you only read Christian books, then you're only getting one side of the puzzle. Every religion, every person is a part of the body. Every person has a piece of the information. And if you can get rid of your ego and take the time to study and to search and to get out of just one book and thinking that this one book has all the answers or that your particular sect knows everything, you're not going to be able to grow. And you're not going to see how all these different books come together to give you the answers, to give you more understanding of this, right? And these pyramids, family, are way stations. In other words, they're like refueling sites. They're pickup drop-off points for Merkaba ships. Probably physical 3D ships too. They're energy plants. They're data storage systems, family. There's, well, not, I don't know about the ones we have in the dome, but I'm pretty sure. Matter of fact, I showed you a video on one of the last ones. So obviously they have pyramid shaped spaceships. That's one, I think. Matter of fact, I think in the Emerald Tablets. I could be wrong, so forgive me if I misquoted. But it's been some years since I went over the Emerald Tablet book. But I forget. But I believe it mentioned that Thoth had a ship in that book, shaped like a pyramid. I don't remember, but Thoth had a ship in the book, and I can't remember. If I'm lying, I apologize. But I do remember specifically it mentioned Thoth had a spaceship, but it didn't say a spaceship, but it was a flying ship. But I don't remember if it said it was a pyramid. I think it might have. But and the pyramid is also esoterically like it's like a symbol of creation, of the creator. It's a symbol saying I'm here, I'm real, because remember, triangles, family, squares and circles are like the building blocks of the universe. Imagine the creator in the creator's infant form before the creator created me, before the creator created you, before the creator created all of this. The creator was making blocks and squares and circles and blobs. Got to start somewhere. Although the creator is eternal, infinite, the creator, I would assume the creator wasn't necessarily always aware of itself. Well, yeah, it wasn't always aware of itself. The creator might have, like I said, just at first just been. And just like I said, over time, the creator just developed thought patterns. And those thought patterns or vibrations eventually over time evolved into us. I know this was a long video, family, and I know it was real slow, but I just wanted to throw these points out there. And once again, this book to me is just like confirmation as far as, it might not. Anyway, family, I don't want to get into that right now. We've been on here so out long enough. Be blessed, family. I'll catch y'all later. Shalom. We'll get back into it later.